Yeah, so we had to get into it eventually, right? I'm pre-recording this video on the night of Friday, May 24th, so when it comes to the information, not everything might be up to date. This video is coming out later because I am going on a trip. So, let's talk about what I, personally, at this moment in time speaking into this microphone, know about the Vancouver Canucks and the potential of them losing Elias Lindholm to the Boston Bruins. Now again, things might be different by the time this video is uploaded on YouTube. There might have been another radio hit, another scoop that disproves everything that happened, or maybe Lindholm signed a contract, who really knows. But as of right now, before this video is being public, as I'm speaking into this microphone, this is the scoop on Elias Lindholm. We're going over to the fourth period, and we're also talking about what Elliotte Friedman said on the latest 32 Thoughts podcast, because if you go over to the latest Canucks to Build Off Successful Season article from a few days ago, David Pagnotta writes on thefourthperiod.com that Elias Lindholm will be one of the more coveted free agents if he hits the open market in July. Nikita Zadorov has already been speculated to be on the radar of the Toronto Maple Leafs this summer, while Lindholm could be heavily targeted by the Boston Bruins, who tried to acquire him before he was dealt by the Calgary Flames to the Vancouver Canucks. So, there's one insider going out there and saying the Bruins, the big bad bees, could be in on Lindholm. Next up, you had yourselves Friedman saying this on the 32 Thoughts podcast. The Bruins are looking to improve their team in a big way. They're looking for a number 1 or number 2 seed. Friedman expects them to be in on Lindholm and Chandler Stevenson. Friedman has heard that Canucks players want Lindholm back. Vancouver will try to keep him. We'll see where this goes. Now here's the thing about the Boston Bruins. They did very well this season. They definitely overachieved in many ways that we didn't expect. We didn't expect the work ethic of the Boston Bruins to sustain itself as strongly as it did in 23-24. We didn't think that the depth or the talent throughout the lineup would sustain itself in the way that it did this previous season either. A lot of people were saying, hey, Bergeron, Krejci, these guys are gone. That is 2 top 6 caliber centers leaving the team. Now, your number 1 center, you've got Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle. I'm sorry to Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle, but the main idea heading into the season was that these guys were more middle to bottom 6 caliber centers, not top 6 dudes. But as the season went on, the Bruins were awesome, and this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, if Pavel Zacha is playing as well as he is, if Charlie Coyle is playing as well as he is, what if the Bruins just had a regular old top-line center to be their top-line center? What more for the rest of the lineup if you were to get some top-end talent at the top end rather than using your middle-end talent there? Elias Lindholm was a guy that I think at one point you could say was a top-line center. I mean, he quite literally was with the Calgary Flames, playing with Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, and being in a position to maybe get an $8-something million deal from the Calgary Flames, something that he was not accepting back in that time frame. But as his career went on, Elias Lindholm got to a spot where now he played 26 games with the Vancouver Canucks in the regular season, but he only had 12 points. You could very much say that his playoffs redeemed himself, and the Vancouver Canucks had so much value out of Lindholm. He was probably a top 3 guy for the Vancouver Canucks in the playoffs, top 5 at the very minimum. I mean, you could say like Artur Silovs, Brock Besser, Lindholm should be in there, Dakota Joshua, and maybe Quinn Hughes, who really knows, but Lindholm was one of the most important players for the Vancouver Canucks in the playoffs, a trait that he could not share in the regular season. Quite frankly, his regular season stint really diminished his value. Sure, Canucks fans, we know that he was injured and he had to take some extended time off, and when he came back, he actually looked pretty good, but that stain is still going to be there. And when it comes to potential contract offers, this is where you start looking at the momentum. Because heading into Vancouver after he was traded for, a lot of people said, yeah, this guy was a top-line center in Calgary. He could be demanding a lot of money, $8.5, $9 million. He apparently rejected a bigger offer with Calgary earlier. But how is he going to do in Vancouver? Then he stunk. Okay, now his value is tanked. The Canucks overpaid for this guy. Kuzmenko's looking great. The Canucks lost the trade, and Lindholm is worth like $3 million. But then in the playoffs, he was good again, and it's like, oh, there's the Lindholm we knew. Oh boy, okay, that guy's going to get a lot of money in the offseason, but maybe it's not going to be as much as he was projected to getting when he was at the 80-point caliber pace that he was at earlier in his career. Who really knows? In fact, if you go over to the Frank Saravalli Daily Faceoff article, take a look at this. How much money did Elias Lindholm lose? This is a really weird thing to go out there and read about, but this was published. I'll leave a link in the description here. Take a look at the graph on Elias Lindholm, negative equity in the 23-24 season. Elias Lindholm in January was projected to be getting a 7-year, $8.04 million AAV contract. In May, he's projected to be getting a 5-year, $6.75 million AAV deal, a net change of minus $22.4 million. The wild part about Lindholm's number is that AFP Analytics projection is probably a little low. The Calgary Flames were believed to be offering an 8-year deal north of $8 million, likely totaling around $68 million. His current projection, around $34 million, has cut that offer in half. Yes, Lindholm may have lost upwards of $30 million between September and now. He was solid for the Canucks in the playoffs and made a ton of subtle, important plays, but his production has not rebounded to the level he was originally asking, which was believed to be around $9 million per year. And while Elias Lindholm is very good, and I definitely do acknowledge that he had value to this team, he's not worth $9 million. I'm sorry. JT Miller is worth $8. Quinn Hughes is 7.8. Pedersen recently came out with his tendonitis in his knee. Okay, maybe that's why he's not playing like an $11.6 million player, but when he's on, he's on. He can be that. Lindholm, I don't know if I've seen anything out of Lindholm that warrants a $9 million price tag, as good and as competent and as great defensively as he was. In fact, Canucks players are all saying that they like him too. His wife was posting pictures of him and the other Canucks ladies on Instagram. They had a really good time, and you had this tweet made by Buck Foston. Elliot Friedman said he's heard there's a full court press by a couple of Canucks players to try and sell Lindholm on staying in Vancouver. So even the players on the team are like, hey, Lindy, come on, stay, buddy, stay. If it is the money that he wants, then okay, great. Then Vancouver might not be able to give that to him. And if that's the one thing that his entire free agent negotiation will hinge on, then okay, yeah, money, do whatever you want. But if it's about fit, if it's about playing for a team that he can win on, playing for a team that he's got chemistry with, playing for a team with a good group of guys that likes him, then Lindholm has no reason to leave. As Ben Kuzma goes out there and replies in this tweet, though, the Bruins chased him before he landed in Van. If he gets to the market, they're shopping. So at the end of the day, if Elias Lindholm stays in Vancouver, awesome, as long as it's on a reasonable deal, which honestly, I trust Patrick Allvin to be able to do that. It's something that I could not say about Jim Benning. Yeah, I trust Benning to give this pending UFA a proper contract. No, like, we don't have any sort of inkling of that to Jim Benning. For Patrick Allvin, though, it's very fair. But if the Boston Bruins instead get their grubby paws here on this guy, then that might be for the benefit of Lindholm's bank account. Because that's really, I think, the biggest thing that Lindholm is looking for. It's the dollars, it's the dough. He wants that $8.5 million AAV salary. And if you go over to the Boston Bruins and their situation, they've got about $20 million in cap space heading into the offseason. And the only guys they have to re-sign are a bunch of UFAs. Yeah, they've got a lot of guys to re-sign, never mind. DeBrusk, Heinen, Maroon, Megna, James Van Riemsdyk, Forbort, Gritslick, Shattenkirk, and then they have Jeremy Swayman, who needs a contract too. Yeah, no, this team needs a lot of guys to re-sign before they could even think about giving the bag out to an Elias Lindholm. Okay, maybe it's a lot more complicated than I thought, but either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire Elias Lindholm to Boston thing, whether or not you think it's likely. The Bruins are probably going to want to use a bunch of their assets on this player, but will they have enough? That's the question that I'm thinking about. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you think the Canucks should try their best to keep Lindholm, what is the max dollar amount that you would be willing to accept in that circumstance? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.